I wanted to go over the reasons why a person might select the AK over the AR using my personal experience with both guns and my opinions on them. Um, for starters, I feel like you have more positive control over the bolt carrier of the AK because it has a fixed charging handle attached. You can more easily seat a full mag on a closed bolt without straining the magazines because it's what the gun was designed for. You have more positive mag insertion without needing to tap or assess anything. If you actually drill the platform, and it's overall simpler to operate in terms of controls, maybe not placement of the controls. I do not personally care about last round bolt hold open. I do not care about safety lever manipulation. When in combat, leave the safety lever off. Your fingers are the ultimate safety after all. And I think constantly flipping the selector on, off, on, off, on, off, as people do with modern handguns and the AR-15, is range theatrics at best. The weight difference to the AR-15 does not matter. I am a literal walking corpse and I can carry the AKM no issue for extended periods. People actually in shape have no excuse. The AR-15 has turned, let's say, 3 generations of riflemen into pansies who demand featherweight rifles at all times. I like that the caliber is larger and may penetrate surfaces and brush at the ranges you will actually fight at with more authority without being an overmatch like the 308 is for most close range use, without having to buy the most expensive version of the ammo or an ammunition that more quickly wears out the rifle, as you would normally and typically have to do with the AR-15. Let's say 55 grain versus green tips, whereas with the AK, you're probably just buying steel case 122 or 123 grain full metal jacket. Before the government betrayed us with import bans, its ammunition was some of the cheapest 7.62 caliber you could acquire in the USA, and I will never understand why fools cheer for rifle bans. It just means that next time they'll come for your personal favorite instead of mine. And frankly, when they do, I will offer you no pity. You didn't stand up for me, so I don't see a point to stand up for you. And finally, this is probably going to be the most controversial for the modern gun market: the look and layout of the rifle. It is effectively World War II technology with the design finalized around 1959 that you can buy today. People constantly say that the AK is World War II tech and the AR is a product of the 50s and 60s. Well, if you actually look at when they finalized the AKM design and everything after that, it's more of a product of the late 50s into the mid 70s if we want to get really pedantic. If you purchase an AK in its natural configuration, you get a rifle with character that feels like a rifle should, as boomerish as that sounds. You get a gun made of steel and wood instead of loosely fitting plastic. You get a gun that comes from the factory with iron sights attached. A rear sling swivel typically that's in a great place to single point sling, a front sling loop position, which on the modern M-Lock or even quad rail, as much as like the quad rail AR-15, you do not. You get at best a sling loop at the rear of the stock, and if your gun does not have a front sight post, you're shit out of luck. And very often anymore, as we've consumerized this market, your rifle will never come with iron sights. I am a big proponent of when you buy a gun, the gun should be at least usable to the shooter. It shouldn't be a building project where you get the gun and then you have to buy 20 different things to make the gun viable. And traditionally with the AK, you get one off the shelf and it's good to go, as long as you're buying a foreign import and not American made, obviously. The AK is a weapon designed before the golems running the world decided that the consumerist M-Lock AR-15 should be the only rifle we can ever have. And quite frankly, the modern AR is the most soulless rifle to have ever been produced. Maybe second only to the XM7, because frankly, that entire program is stupid. It exists to sell you $20 rail sections on a rifle that could have easily mounted a quad rail from the factory to do the same job and be sturdier to boot, since apparently all guns must support NVG use and laser aiming modules now without handguard flex, which is primarily a problem with M-Lock that we didn't have before M-Lock and Keymod's invention, I might add. It is a degeneration of rifle technology sold to us as progress, and I despise this progressivism in most aspects. My favoritism of the AK, if we want to get all psychological with it, is a preference for when things were made with a little bit of care, as some people might find that funny to think with all the bent front sight posts and everything, but these guns and technology in general used to be made sturdier. It used to be made with more care and consideration, even if it was being made in a sweatshop for pennies on the dollar. These things used to be built with an understanding that the end consumer was going to bet their life on it. And a lot of the things that we can buy today, AKs included, especially the American ones, are built to be throwaway, essentially. They are consumerist first. So for me, buying an older European or Chinese or whatever provenance military factory produced Kalashnikov was far more interesting, far more fun, and fit my use case, my level of preparedness in my scenario, my wargaming, better than a lot of these AR-15s that are on the market today. I like the carry handle ARs. I've come around to appreciating the retro Car 15s and older M16 platforms because those guys actually had to work around the rifle instead of having every single one of their little demands met by some company somewhere. And they weren't special snowflakes. If they had a special snowflake gun, it was because they put the work in and customized it themselves. It wasn't, oh, I just went and got a BCM or a Daniel Defense or a Geisley and I paid too much for it. They actually had to modify the weapon for their own use case. And I think a little bit of that ingenuity and self-reliance has been lost with the commercialization of the entire market. In a perfect world, Americans could buy AK-74s and 5.45, or we would have access to legitimate 5.56 AKs that worked and didn't fall apart 500 rounds in, 1,000 rounds in. And you wouldn't see this AR-15 dominance of the market. Like, there would be more options. Frankly, 5.45 handles out of a short barrel better than 5.56. You would probably see a proliferance of Krinkov length guns like the AKS-74U. Those would probably be pretty popular still. But circumstances being what they are, import bans being what they are, and the fact that the AK-74 type rifle never fully encapsulated the American market, the most common gun we will ever have will be the AKM. The AKM is what I settled on. I prefer the layout of the Kalashnikov. I've always enjoyed the rifle, and I think for the level of competence of most shooters and what we'd actually get up to in a crisis situation, the rifle is perfectly adequate. this obsession with turning every single gun into the M-Lock AR-15, as far as I am concerned, is mental illness. Like, people used to train around their equipment, people used to become proficient with multiple different platforms, and there may come a scenario or time in your life where you won't have the most optimal build, the most optimal setup at your disposal. And you may have to come to terms with your gun not being a $5,000 custom fit AR-15 with a lightened trigger pull and mag pull stock of your choosing and whatever else. And I come from that older school of thought. I come from that older line of training, and I think a lot of this crap that people get into now is hoopla, quite frankly. I'm rambling at this point, so I believe I will leave it there. It's just a thought exercise for why someone at a certain point in time might have selected the AKM or, let's say, the M70 or whatever over the AR-15. You have to remember that at one time these guns were plentiful. The ammo was some of the cheapest 7mm you could get, and the guns just worked. Have a nice day.